The silence of the night draped over my house like a heavy shroud, intensifying the creaks and groans of its aging structure. My parents were away for the weekend, leaving me alone in the labyrinth of empty rooms and echoing hallways. At first, the prospect of solitude seemed liberating, a chance to revel in the tranquility of an undisturbed home. Little did I know that the silence would soon be shattered by the malevolent symphony of impending horror. It began with a faint tapping on my bedroom window, a sound that danced on the edge of consciousness like an elusive nightmare. Dismissing it as the whimsical rustle of tree branches, I plunged into the depths of solitude, embracing the silence that enveloped me. The night progressed and the clock in the hallway ticked away, marking the inexorable march of time. As the hours melted into the early morning, an unsettling chill crept through the air, stirring the shadows that clung to the corners of my room. The serenity that once embraced me now transformed into a palpable unease, as though an unseen presence lurked within the obsidian recesses of my home. Just as I began to drift into the clutches of sleep, a sudden jolt of awareness shot through me. A creaking floorboard, distant yet unmistakable, echoed from the lower depths of the house. My senses sharpened, and the suffocating silence seemed to amplify the erratic beat of my heart. A cold sweat broke across my forehead. As I strained to listen, my ears attuned to the ominous symphony of intrusion. The creaks persisted, growing closer with each passing moment, a grotesque overture to an impending nightmare. My breath caught in my throat as the realization dawned. Someone was inside my house. Panic seized me, rendering my limbs heavy and unresponsive. The darkness that had once felt like a comforting cloak now pressed in on me, oppressive and suffocating. In a desperate bid for survival, I fumbled for my phone, fingers trembling as I dialed 911. The dispatcher's voice, a lifeline in the abyss of fear, echoed through the receiver. As I whispered my desperate plea for help, the intruder's malevolent symphony continued its haunting crescendo. Armed only with the urgency of impending danger, I pressed myself against the wall, eyes wide and fixed on the bedroom door. Every fiber of my being screamed at me to escape, to flee the imminent threat that loomed in the shadows. The terror continued to unfold as I played a desperate game of cat and mouse with the intruder, the shadows concealing my every move. With the dispatcher as my lifeline, I sought refuge in the recesses of my home, each room transformed into a potential sanctuary or a treacherous trap. My heart raced as I navigated the labyrinthine corridors, ducking into closets and behind furniture. My senses heightened to the slightest creak or whisper that could betray my presence. The air became thick with suspense, each heartbeat a drumming cadence, underscoring the relentless pursuit. I made a calculated decision to ascend into the attic, hoping the darkness would be my ally. The wooden steps groaned beneath my weight as I ascended. The oppressive silence of the attic, a stark contrast to the chaos that unfolded below. I crouched in the shadows, breath held, as the intruder passed beneath, unaware of my presence. Time stretched in the claustrophobic space, the echoes of his footsteps resonating in the confined attic. My mind raced, contemplating the next move in this macabre game. The dispatcher's voice in my ear provided a lifeline, a connection to the outside world that was now stained with the sinister presence that roamed my home. Then, a guttural sound echoed through the attic. The intruder was onto me. Panic surged as I realized the attic offered no escape. The walls seemed to close in, shadows conspiring against me. The intruder's predatory gaze met mine, and a malevolent grin twisted his features. In a moment of pure instinct, I seized the opportunity to slip away, agile and silent as I descended the stairs. As I reached the ground floor, the dispatcher guided me to the basement, a last refuge, a final stand against the encroaching threat. The basement, a dimly lit chamber of forgotten relics and dusty memories, welcomed me into its cold embrace. I concealed myself among forgotten boxes and discarded furniture, my breath shallow as I waited for the intruder to reveal his next move. The basement became a crucible of fear, every shadow a potential harbinger of doom. The distant wails of sirens outside seemed to mock the desperation that clung to the damp air. In the oppressive silence, the dispatcher remained my sole anchor to reality. Then a flicker of movement caught my eye. The intruder's silhouette framed against the dim light. He prowled through the basement, a malevolent spectre determined to claim his prey. Panic surged, and I pressed myself further into the shadows, my breath suspended. The dispatcher urged me to remain calm, to stay hidden until the police arrived. The intruder's movements became erratic, fueled by frustration and the realization that his prey eluded him. It was a dangerous game of hide-and-seek, a battle of wills in the suffocating darkness. As I cowered in my hiding place, the distant wails of sirens grew louder, a symphony of salvation heralding the arrival of the police. The intruder, oblivious to the imminent threat, continued his pursuit. The dispatcher assured me that help was on the way, a lifeline that echoed through the abyss of fear. In a twist of fate, the intruder ascended to the attic once more, convinced that his prey remained ensnared in that dimly lit space. It was the moment of reckoning, an opportunity to break free from the malevolent dance that had ensnared me. Seizing the chance, I slipped out of my hiding place, agile and silent as a phantom. The dispatcher guided me with hushed urgency, directing me toward the back door. The night air embraced me as I fled, the moonlight casting shadows that seemed to dance in jubilation. The police, clad in blue uniforms, emerged from the shadows of the night, converging on the house like avenging angels. The intruder, ensnared in the attic's deceptive grasp, remained oblivious to the approaching storm. The dispatcher, a steadfast guide through the chaos, assured me that safety was at hand. As I reached the back door, the world beyond my violated home awaited me. With one last glance over my shoulder, I slipped into the cold embrace of the night, leaving the malevolent spectre to face the consequences of his intrusion. The police, armed with the authority of justice, stormed the house. The dispatcher remained a constant presence, guiding the officers to the intruder's lair in the attic. The shadows that had concealed his malevolence now surrendered him to the glaring light of accountability. As I stood in the safety of the night, the scene unfolded like a surreal tableau. The intruder, caught in the web of his own malevolence, was apprehended by the officers. The handcuffs clinked, sealing his fate, as the dispatcher's voice reassured me that the nightmare had come to an end. The police escorted the intruder away, his malevolent gaze now powerless against the forces of justice. The night, once shrouded in terror, began to reclaim its serenity. The wails of sirens, once harbingers of fear, now transformed into a symphony of safety and triumph. In the aftermath, the violated home stood as a silent witness to the night's horrors, its walls echoing with the whispers of shadows that had momentarily usurped its sanctuary. Yet as the first light of dawn illuminated the scars of the ordeal, I stood resilient, a survivor who had faced the encroaching darkness and emerged into the embrace of a new day.